Hey, what's up guys? Bajheera here. And continuing on with our enjoyment of Dragonflight Warrior PvP, I got a little something to show you guys. I want to go over some macros for you. My macros are not real complicated, but one of the objectives with this video is basically, of course, showing you the macros that I use, but hopefully helping you learn how to write a macro in general, so you can create macros for yourself, for other classes, as well as Warrior. Because once again, it's not really all that complicated, but once you learn a couple different sort of macro types to write, it'll help you out. And that being said, you can probably write some pretty crazy macros, and there are some that are definitely kind of weird, but I'll show them to you, and then you can, use them as you prefer. So let's go ahead and just get started. First things first, I'm just going to go down to my general macros, and then I'll take a quick look. Well, you know what? Why don't we do it the other way? Why don't we look at my Bajheera specific macros, because those are not quite as numerous as the general macros. So first things first is just a general, whenever I press Mortal Strike, it will attempt to taunt any pets that are in the arena, and it'll also set my focus as whatever I want my focus to be, right? And of course it'll press Mortal Strike. So that's what this one does. I actually have the show tooltip down at the bottom because you don't need to have show tooltip as the first line of the macro. I often have done that, but you just don't really need to. So for this one, I put it at the bottom because mainly what I'm doing is I am actually pressing a macro that opens up my macro thing, and so I don't have to type /M every time. And I'm changing my focus target to whatever I want my focus to be. So arena 1, 2, 3, like if I want it to be the healer, I can set it to the healer. If I want it to be a caster, I can set it to a caster. Or even if I want it to be like a Windwalker monk, so I can just reliably focus bolt the Windwalker monk on fists. That's pretty helpful sometimes. So it sets my focus, it'll cast Mortal Strike on my actual target. It'll taunt arena pets, and the reason I'm taunting pets is 1, to be annoying, 2, to be disruptive, like I guess it's kind of the same thing, and 3, potentially to pull a pet towards me, so I can like hit it with like a sweeping strikes to get deep wounds on it, which heals me just a teeny bit, but also can potentially, like kill the pets, just do damage to the pets, and that's helpful in arena to take them out for a victory rush, or just to disrupt the enemy team's utility, that kind of stuff. Just helpful in general. And this is what I'll do, the same thing for Fury, basically, is I'll have like a macro that just does that same thing, but with Bloodthirst, right? And pretty simple. This is just my basic pummel macro. You'll see me writing /cancel aura Bladestorm in a lot of my macros. That will allow me to like cancel my Bladestorm and pummel, or cancel my Bladestorm and execute, or cancel my Bladestorm and fear. Like cancel aura Bladestorm is a line that you're going to put in a lot of macros, so that you can do that thing instantly, even if you're Bladestorm at the time. This is my basic charge macro. It's going to show the tooltip for charge. It's going to charge, and then a second press will hamstring. I feel like I've noticed some issues with this though. I think it might just be like a range thing, really. But what it'll do is it'll charge with the first press, then you just press the same button again and it'll hamstring. So it's not like a one button charge hamstring. It does both situation. It's just a charge and then a hamstring. You press the button again when you're in melee range. So that's how that works. We've got a focus Stormbolt. So if I want to set this guy as my focus and I want to target this guy, right? So I'm beating up this dude, right? My macro is like automatically detargeting my focus. But say I have this guy in focus and we're targeting this guy instead, and I press the button for focus Stormbolt, it should chuck a Stormbolt at my focus, right? And then that allows me to continue attacking this guy without necessarily having to detarget him. So I can also like focus kick, or focus pummel. I can focus fear, do all kinds of cool stuff. Focus charge, right? And I'm still targeting this guy, but I'm using the abilities that are in my focus macros on my focus target. So that is how that works. And we've got focus Stormbolt, we've got focus Sphere, we've got focus Kick. All these are written in a very similar kind of way, right? Where it's target equals focus Stormbolt. And I'm also canceling my Bladestorm. You can write focus macros different ways. You can like do like cast at focus, but it usually has to be in like some sort of bracket. And this is one way to do it. Target equals focus is one way. So I'll do this macro as well for my like focus Sphere macro. It'll be a focus charge into a focus Sphere. And then it'll be canceling my Blade Storm, so I can do that instantly if I wanted to. Same thing with this pummel. It'll cancel my Blade Storm and it'll focus pummel. This is my like Rallying Cry macro. So some of these macros I think are actually a little bit newbie. I don't know if I actually always want to have Hellstone in my Rallying Cry macro. Sometimes it's nice to use those separately. That being said, I think a lot of times with locks, if you use your Hellstone, it actually heals them. So sometimes, like if you're rallying for your teammate, you don't want to use your Hellstone. However, if your lock is low and it heals them when you use Hellstone, that's not really a bad thing to have. So I'll continue to think about this and go from there. I also have like my Alliance Battle Standard. I will have a health potion in this macro as well. I don't know if I even have health potions right now, so I need to change this. It's not spiritual refreshing rejuvenation potion. Now it's refreshing healing potion. So I need that one. Hello. I just changed it back. Okay, I don't know what that is. Whatever. If you insist, whatever. And I'm also putting in Ignore Pain in some of these macros. It's a legacy thing. It's not like I put it in recently. It's just still there, even though we don't have Ignore Pain anymore. Sometimes we can hope, we can dream. I don't think it's actually causing any issues. It might be like you don't have that ability or something like that when you press the button, but whatever. This is my normal Stormbolt macro. Once again, like if you understand how the Cancel Aura works, I'm Blade Storm and pow, Cancel Aura Blade Storm to smack him with a Stormbolt right there. That's how that works. I have Heroic Throw. I suppose you could put a Cancel Aura Blade Storm Heroic Throw there if you wanted to. I see very few situations where canceling your Blade Storm to do like 6k damage is going to be a thing, but hey, you never know. Why is it? It's just not. Oh, is it not saving my macros because I'm in combat with that dummy? Yeah, I made him mad, so it's not saving. I see. That's why it wasn't doing before. Whatever. We'll just fix that real quick. Boom. And I'll fix my HP macro too to use my new and improved Healy potions. Which once again, you might want to just bind these separately, but I'm gonna put it in there because I want to. And finally, we have the Cancel Aura Blade Storm Victory Rush. So once again, anything that's like, I need to use this ability now, it could be rough if I let, 3 more seconds pass before I get my Victory Rush off, or the Fear off, or the Kick off, or the Stun off. You want to put a Cancel Aura Blade Storm in there. And you'll also notice a lot of these are doing, the show tooltip part, the hashtag show tooltip for whatever ability. That just ensures that your macro will show you the tooltip for the abilities that you type next, right? And of course, /cast sends them off. So I want to show you the macros, but I also want you guys to learn how to write the macros. So I just have the same thing over here because I just want this to be the very first thing that pops up when I try to press my macro button. So I don't have to like go searching for it at the beginning of the game. I can just do that quickly. And how you do that is, what I've found is, the thing that your macros prioritize the most in terms of like moving them to the front of the line is like spacebar. So this macro's name is spacebar period, which elevates it. It still shows as a little period, so I know the dot is actually a macro without taking up a whole lot of space, like text space. But I also put a space in front of it so that it goes to the front of the line, so I can just click it as soon as I open my macro thingy, right? Here's Blade Storm. You don't really need a macro for this, but I do have Ignore Pain in there, because when you had Ignore Pain, you could use a chunk of Rage during your Blade Storm, and then your Blade Storm would just fill up your Rage bar again, so you wouldn't really have to worry about it. It was kind of nice to just have an Ignore Pain roll during your Blade Storm, but once again, we don't even have Ignore Pain right now, so I'm just leaving it there, man. I'm just hoping that we get Ignore Pain back. It'd be so nice. This is a Death Wish macro that also will intervene. It's just like I use the same keybind for my mouse over intervene as I do Death Wish, so I'm just adding that to it for when I play Fury. Now this is a very neat macro. So this is gonna cancel my Blade Storm, and if I have Shattering Throw talented, it'll cast Shattering Throw. But if I don't have Shattering Throw talented, it'll cast Wrecking Throw. So that's a very, very helpful macro right now for warriors, where you can just bind your sort of utility throw button, and then as long as you have that macro, it'll do whatever one you have talented, and you can do that with your focus too. So that's what we've done. If we go down here somewhere and find it, it should have like an F, and that will be my focus one. Where does that one live? Does that live over here? I don't think so. There it is. So you cancel Aura Blade Storm and you cast at focus known Shattering Throw, or just Shattering Throw, right? So if your focus, right? So at focus known Shattering Throw, and then Shattering Throw, and at focus known Wrecking Throw, Wrecking Throw. So it's kind of a strange way to write it, but that's how you do it. So let me double check that actually is working the way I want it to. This guy's my focus. This guy's my other guy. Pow! He throws it at my focus. That's how you write that macro. And I can drop these in the description for you as well, but hopefully we'll have it nice and blown up on the video so that you can look at it and copy it down if you need to make sure it's like case sensitive and whatnot. But that's a very interesting macro that I'm glad that we have, because there used to be like talent macros. Like if you know this talent, then it does this. If you know this talent, it does this. But we don't really have those kind of talent setups anymore. So you have to write the macro like this, using like known, which might be new. That might be a new thing. I've never seen it before, which is cool. So this is a mouse over intervene. This is how you just write it in general. So it'd be show tooltip intervene, and I probably could even chuck a cancel or a blade storm on there for good measure. Except I don't actually use this as my mouse over intervene. I'll show you the one that I actually use later on. I just like to see like the tooltip for Mortal Strike on that button, just because I like the way it looks on my bars. This is a legacy macro that we don't really use anymore, but it would ignore pain and overpower at one point. Because sometimes using ignore pain would spend rage, which would give you free overpower, so you can kind of use it insta, which is kind of fun. This is Die by the Sword. Once again, ignore pain is in there, just hoping, right? This will show you the tooltip for Die by the Sword. You can also just type show tooltip and it'll show you the next thing. Now you can have defensive stance in this macro. I don't think I want to though, because I don't always want to go D-stance when I'm parrying, actually. Like sometimes you can just parry and then just still go aggro, right? And whenever you're in D-stance, you're doing 20% less damage. So it is an option, but I don't think that's what I want to do right now. But it is an option. And the reason I have exclamation mark in front of defensive stance is because you can actually take your stances off. So if you bind battle stance and bind defensive stance or Berserker stance normally, and you spam the button, it'll actually take you out of the stance. So any macro that involves a stance, you want to make sure you have exclamation mark in front of it so that you can't get taken out of that stance. This is my Spear of Bastion macro. It's going to cast a Spear of Bastion. It's going to cancel Aura Blade Storm, so I can do that. Exclamation point in front of it is just for good measure. You can kind of spam it sometimes. You don't really want to cancel it. You just spam it. Give the option to do that. And I think it also does the thing where like if you can't throw it there, it doesn't like go away. So like let me see if I can make it like look red somewhere. If you just keep clicking, it'll eventually just go, right? Which is nice. It doesn't click. You have to recast it, right? You just kind of keep spamming it like Heroic Leap. I think you can make Heroic Leap do some weird stuff. Like it'll tell you that you can't go here, but then you actually just can. So like, it's kind of funny. I'll try that again to make sure it works the way I was describing, but yeah, you can do some fun stuff. I don't know if that actually has anything to do with you being able to jump there. You can probably do it just fine. But regardless, that's why you do the exclamation point, just to make it so it doesn't go, the reticle doesn't like clicking it, doesn't go away afterwards. The reticle stays. Then we have Battle Stance. This is exactly what I was describing right there before. It'll show the tooltip for Battle Stance, and then it will cast Battle Stance, but it will not take me out of Battle Stance, right? So if I just sit here spamming it, it doesn't actually go away, which is what I want, right? I don't want it to go away. But I think what the macro that I'm actually using is this. So I have Sharpen Blade here, because I always like pressing F for Sharpen Blade. The weakness of this macro is sometimes, like, if you wanted to be in D-stance, it'll put that on a short cooldown, so it can be kind of weird, but that's fine. But this is how you write the Battle Stance macro, and the thing is I probably don't actually need this particular one anymore, because I'm using this one. But if I want to go back to not having Sharpen Blade on that button, I can always go back to the other one, but I'm good for now. This is my Odin's Fury macro. This is just the Odin's Fury one. This isn't like the big pop. This will put me in Berserker stance. If for some reason I'm not in Berserker stance, it'll use my 1 minute trinket if it's available, and then of course it'll cast Odin's Fury. This will be a Fury thing. These are macros that I just have just to see my trinkets or use them, of course. So this is use 14. This is slot 14, and then similarly I'll have a use 13, and it will use whatever trinket is in slot 13 for me, which is this guy. So I don't think I even have that on my bars for arms, oddly enough. I probably probably want to put that on my bar somewhere, which might mean that I'm gonna maybe set up something a little bit different. I might go ahead and at long last just go ahead and show tooltip for disarm down here. Just kind of weird. But it'll be fine. Or I could move disarm somewhere else. I like having these as my little floaties, but I could change that up, right? Or I could really put my trinket like here, because I'm already showing avatar like 3 other places, right? So maybe I'll just do that. Let's see. I'm gonna go back to execute. And I'll show the tooltip for disarm right there. And that will be just fine. All good. Plop that there and there. And then we'll just keep an eye on avatar on the other places. This is just visual stuff. You can show tooltip for anything as anything. That's just personal preference. But anyway, once again, let me see how this leap thing works. So like you can just spam click it. Even if it doesn't let you go somewhere, you can spam click it. I'm pretty sure you can jump up there regardless though. Just anyway. This is so anytime you're macroing sharpened blade with something, I feel like it's kind of newbie. But I do kind of like it. I've been doing an experiment. Sharpening skillfully, I think, is the play. But I've been just using sharpen as high uptime sharpen. I'm kind of experimenting with how that feels. Just using it off CD. Just for pressure. Don't necessarily recommend it, but I am experimenting with it. And this is the kind of thing where if you are newer, then you can just go ahead and just chuck it in a macro just to make sure that it's high uptime. And that's fine. Not optimal, but it's probably fine. This is a cancel or a cast war banner macro. So once again, does what it says it does. Takes you out of Bladestorm, slaps down a banner. This is a tooltip that just looks like execute. I'm actually going to change the name of it too. It just looks like execute, but it actually is just disarm. So I want to press that button for disarm, but I want to see execute there, which that's how I have it set up. Let's keep going. See, so this is a charge macro, one of many. They probably all do about the same thing. This one is charge. It'll cast hamstring. I have rend in there in case I wanted to switch to it. If you ever see a macro with 2 slashes, that disables that line. So it means that will not do that thing, but it will you don't have to like delete it from the macro, right? So if I wanted to make it cast rend instead of hamstring, what I would do is I would do this to cancel out hamstring, and I would do this to make it cast rend. And just in general, you can't have 2 abilities on the global cooldown in one macro, so that's why I have it set up like that. But yeah, I don't even think I'm actually using this iteration of charge right now, so I might just delete this one. So but that's how that works. I think we have something very similar right here, right? It's just charge hamstring, which is cleaner, and that's what I actually use. So we'll just leave that where it is. This, I think I mentioned something in my add-ons video about mixed scrolling battle text disabling your floating combat text. If you use this macro, it will re-enable your floating combat text. This /console floating combat text combat damage space 1, that'll turn it back on. I think there was at some point you had to press that to fix something, and I just never deleted it, and I'm gonna leave it there for now anyway. So this is my like Colossus Smash or Warbreaker macro. It'll show the tooltip for Colossus Smash. It'll put you in battle stance. You pretty much always want to be, like you don't want to be bursting in D stance ever, so you can just slap battle stance on there. It'll use your trinket, it'll cast Colossus Smash, it'll cast Sharpen Blade for you too. It'll also cancel Bladestorm, so if for some reason you wanted to cancel Bladestorm to Colossus Smash, you can do that. So that's that. This is D stance. Just, once again, the same thing as battle stance, right? Just show the tooltip, /cast, ! D stance, means it won't take you out of the macro. This is my avatar macro. It'll put you in battle stance, or berserker stance, depending on if your arms are fury. It will cast avatar, it'll cast blood fury if you're an orc, which I'm not, but if I ever play my orc, we'll leave that in the macro. It'll also cast sharpen blade, it'll cast saltwater potions for BGs, and it'll also use my 1 minute cooldown burst trinket, so that's just a big boy. This is disarm. This is showing the tooltip for disarm if I am playing it, which it doesn't really matter what this says because it's usually only just a tooltip anyway. But if it wasn't, then I could put it somewhere. Like I could probably drag this on my bar and put it here, and to see. But I don't know. I kind of like the way it looks this way, but because I actually press Warbanner with this button, I don't actually press disarm with that button, so not a huge concern there if it represents it correctly. This is dual. Once again, this would be another. I don't really use dual very often, but if I did, I'd want that on my bar, and I probably just need to like move my gliders somewhere else, because we need to have like, I need to have dual be an option on my bar. So we'll just plop her there, and I'll put the glider somewhere else later on. But yeah, we want that. We want the dual to be an option there. This is the button I actually use to press dual. It shows slam, but it casts dual. So the same thing as on my bar down here. This is the button that I actually use for it. But I just like to show slam. This is Death Wish, so this will cast Death Wish. It will also cast Spirit Bastion. That's not something I'm currently using right now, but that was just a keybind preference. This is my Execute macro. It'll cancel Aura Blade Storm. It'll cast Execute. Once again, I'm putting Sharpened Blade in some interesting places just to kind of see how it feels. Doing some early season experimentation. But I mean, like putting in like big executes and then coming out of that with the Sharpen when they're low is pretty scary stuff. This is just an extra action button 1 thingy, so you can actually bind the action button instead of using it. Or you can make it a macro, right? So I don't really currently use that, but it is an option. This is the focus macro of the throw macro that we just showed you guys. Same things before. This is just another place where for some reason focus bolt lives. I think I used this one though, so I probably could delete this one unless one of my other characters is using it, and just in case I'm not going to delete it. This is Focus Dark Sim for when I play DK. You'll see that those macros just follows the same sort of style of other focus macros. It just you know, says focus, use that thingo, and then the tooltip for it. This is my Fear macro. It'll cancel my Blade Storm and Fear. Once again, same idea. This is my flags. I used to have this bound to my disarm button, and now I don't because I would accidentally flag people at the end of arena matches. So now we just have those separately. You can flag them to our heart's content, just not with the same button I use for other stuff. This is a focus wall button. I think I have focus wall over here, but some of these macros live in 2 places because my alts use them, but they don't have the specific macros for this guy. So it's fine, I have them bounced over to different places. This is a cool macro. Once we figure out what the Glad achievement is for this season, you can run this macro and it will put your like Glad wins that you need in your quest log, like so you can track how many wins you have, which is pretty cool for once we're pushing Glad. The mount looks sick, so we're definitely gonna want that. This is my Enraged Regeneration macro. It casts Enraged Regen, and since we want a Bloodthirst, as soon as we press it, it actually just goes ahead and casts Bloodthirst at the same time. So if you got a free global and you're spamming Enraged Regen, it'll go ahead and heal you a little bit. Same thing here is sometimes you don't want to go D-stance, but I have it in the macro just in case like I wanted to at some point. As I said, it's disabled currently, but if we wanted to, we could do that. Go D-stance, heal up a little bit, get back in action after that. Wouldn't be a bad idea, but it's just not something I'm doing right now. Sometimes you do press defensive cooldowns to stay aggressive, and you don't want to be doing 20% less damage during that time. This is an overpower button that looks like overpower, but it actually is a mouse over intervene. So that's what I have on my bar right here. So that's basically mouse wheel up, and I think mouse wheel down are also just mouse over intervenes for like solo shuffle or BGs or whatever. It'll do at mouse over, comma help, comma no dead. So if it's alive and it's an ally, you'll intervene it with a mouse over. That also casts Ignore Pain, but we don't have that, so don't worry about that. This is a really helpful macro. This is just good quality of life right here. You put whatever show tooltip, whatever mount you want to use, and you do /cast Battle Shout, and you use /use whatever mount you like. You can also I just randomly have the cancel Aura Sweeping Strikes in this, but it's not something I actually want to use for cancel Aura Sweeping Strikes because Battle Shout does consume a global. So, and also summons a Kyrian Steward, but we're just gonna take both those things out. But anyway, this is a macro that's very helpful for you never forgetting to cast Battle Shout, because whenever you like mount up in the beginning of an arena match, you'll Battle Shout. So very helpful to have around. Just a simple thing, but it's nice and quality of life. This is a macro that I have to open up my macros screen, right? Because it's just an easier key press to press a button to open up your macros at the beginning of an arena match to change my focus, right? So I have my focus thing as the very first thing, right? So I just press this button, boom, change my focus over, you know, save it, press this, you know, and then press escape, and I'm good to go for arena. That's just a personal preference how I set up my stuff, but it could be good for you too. This is just like a trade chat mercenary service. I do mercenary services in 2v2 for 300k gold an hour. Hit me up on stream about it, hit me up on Discord about it. It's a lot of fun. But that's my just spam macro for that. I have a macro for mount special, just in case your mount does anything cool, you want to see what it looks like. Sometimes it's just spacebar, but sometimes it makes you fly in the air, so having a mount special is cool. These are my intervene macros. So I will have, if I'm doing something that's just party related, I will just leave it as /cast party 1 or party 2. But if I'm actually doing arena with teammates that I arena with frequently, then I will go ahead and I'll press / there, and it will only intervene, you know, my healers. So playing with Jacob, playing with Garbage, playing with Frank, playing with Hammy, playing with Markers. Those are the guys who are in there right now. It'll intervene them. And then same thing with the DPS guys that I play with. I have the same macro, just different button, right? And then it'll intervene my DPS. So I have a healer intervene and a DPS intervene. And that's, you know, just show tooltip, cast at party 2 for the party ones, or it's /cast at their name intervene. That's that. Q ping off. This is some random thing. Whenever I would make like BG group, something like that, it like the ping would just be going off constantly, and this turns it off. I don't really use this anymore, but it's an option. This is just casting Ravager. This is Recklessness for Fury. You go Berserker Stance, you pop Recklessness, you go Avatar with Rampage as well. So what this does is you pop all your cooldowns in it, and you're going to have a lot of rage at that point, so you're going to press Rampage, and then you can do your Roar afterwards. Or if you wanted to put Roar in the macro, you could. I just don't recommend that. You have to do either Rampage or Roar. I would recommend that you pop all these cooldowns with a Rampage, then you Dragon's Roar, then you Rampage again, then you can Odin's Fury, and then you can Rampage again. Or if you're playing Cleve, then you might want to Rampage Bloodthirst, but it just changed a little bit. But anyway, that's the macro. For the big one for Fury is Rec, Avatar, Rampage, all in one macro with your Trinket. Going into Berserker Stance if you weren't already. You do definitely want to be in Berserker Stance for that, right? Your big cooldowns. It's just recording. If I'm recording a video, sometimes I will put that on so people, if they whisper me and they wonder why I'm not responding, they'll know. You don't have to actually cancel Aura Bladestorm for Reflect. I'm pretty sure you can just Reflect in your Bladestorm, so you don't really need that. But you can have that in there, I guess. I had that in there for some reason, but this is just casting a Spell Reflection. You don't need it, but a lot of my buttons sometimes I macro just because, but this one's actually not even macro. This isn't even my button on my bar, so let's go ahead and delete that one, I think, unless I wanted to like rally or like a BM Trinket during or something random like that. Anyway, this is an interesting all-in-one macro for your stances. It makes it such that if you are in D stance and you press this, it'll put you in battle. If you're in battle stance and you press this, it'll put you in D stance. And if you're Fury, it'll do the same thing with Zerker and D stance. I don't currently use it. I like to have a reliable button for this puts me in battle, this puts me in D stance. But this is kind of a cool all-in-one macro that I can drop in the description for you guys. Could be neat. Sharpened Blade. This is a macro that shows Sharpened Blade, but actually casts my Shattering Throw, Wrecking Throw, and cancels my Bladestorm. That's just, once again, one of those situations where I like seeing Sharpened Blade on this keybind, even if it makes it do something else, right? And I'm comfortable with that. This is a fun one. This is Sweeping Strikes that just, it taunts all the pets to you when you activate Sweeping Strikes, and it also casts Sharpened Blade. So, you know, if you're about to Sweeping Strikes people with a Mortal Strike, it'd be great to sharpen both of them. And if a bunch of pets come over your way when you have Sweeping Strikes active, that's pretty nice too, to just blast the pets with Sweeping Strikes. So that's a nice little macro to have. Looks kind of like the Mortal Strike one, right? Then I also have Sweeping Strikes cancel. So I have a button that cancels a lot of different buffs, right? So sometimes if you're playing with like a mage or a hunter or somebody with like CC that's really easily broken, and you're about to go attack somebody right next to the healer that's in CC, you're gonna want to cancel your Sweeping Strikes. If you're playing against mages, you're probably gonna want to have a button that cancels your freedom after you get out of the root, or and cancels your buff after you get out of the stun or whatever's about to kill you, right? Because the mage can just rip that thing off of you, and you don't really want that to happen. So I have this macroed in with the Sweeping Strikes cancel. There's good argument to not have it on the same button, but I'm gonna see how it goes. It's fine. But these are just helpful cancel auras, so that's just one of the sort of ways of that you can write a macro that you should be aware of. Like if you want to take off a buff that you have for whatever reason to be able to cast something else, or to have it be not able to be stolen from you, then a cancel aura is cool. Like a lot of mages would like steal combust and cancel it, right? So that just like completely negates the other mage's burst. Like that kind of play is cool. I don't think you can do that anymore, but that was kind of a neat way of using cancel auras. This is just a click extra action button one. I think we have something like that already on there. Didn't we have that over here? I just made it look different. That's click extra action button one, and this is click extra action button one, so I'll delete this one. All right, so we have, this is a button that I like for it to look like charge, but it actually puts me in D stance. just, once again, it's a personal preference kind of thing. I used to have that as stance swap, but now I can call it D for D stance. It just makes it look like charge, but it actually puts me in D stance, which I like. That's what I want for that one. Let's see. This one is an old keybind. No, it's this one that I use right now. Yeah, that's like I said, this is kind of like the overpower one. This actually will cast Mortal Strike if I press it, but it'll also intervene, and it just looks like Mortal Strike. This is mostly a macro that I would use for a mouse over intervene. So it lives in a place where I don't really use Mortal Strike and overpower on those buttons anymore. But I've had them there for so long, just in terms of the look of my UI, that I'm just comfortable with it and I like it. It is redundant though, but I like that it looks like Mortal Strike overpower more than I want it to look like intervene, right? So this is a macro that I don't really use this anymore, but it lets people know that I'm streaming. Same thing. It's like if I'm busy and I don't respond, they're like, "Why are you responding?" It's because I'm streaming. Come hang out. So that, oh, okay, cool, nice. This is a taunt. You just press this and it can like arena pet taunt people. The thing about this though is I kind of want to take this part out of it, because I mostly only want to use this as a taunt, and I don't actually want to use this to do anything else. I don't really want to taunt pets with it, because like if I'm fighting against like a hunter and a rogue, I want to be able to taunt the rogue from getting a re-stealth more than I want to just be randomly taunting pets. So I'm gonna take some stuff out of that. I already have a cancel aura for other stuff too, so we'll just leave that there. This is a cool macro that lets you click the macro and it'll show you your vault rewards that you have earned throughout the week. So you can check your vault stuff pretty easily without actually having to go to the vault. That's a fun one. And then this is just a good old Berserker Stance macro. So same thing, show tooltip, cast exclamation mark Berserker Stance. It'll let you cast Berserker Stance and spam with your heart's content and it won't take you out. So those are all the macros that I'm working with right now. There are some really interesting ones like the known macros. The sort of Omni Stance swap macro I think is like pretty crazy looking. But a lot of it's just focused and targeting macros, really nothing fancy. But I don't think you really need anything too crazy. And that'll help you get started. Hopefully that does help you. Another kind of long video going through all my stuff, but people are curious about this kind of stuff, and hopefully it helps you guys out get started. Just learning how to, manage your targeting in Arena and manage some like cool talent swap macros just so you can make your action bars either look the way that you want or not have to fiddle around with the dragon things on and off your bar or getting too many binds like, used for different stuff that you're not actually using in that arena match, right? So hopefully it helps. Like I said, if these kind of videos are interesting to you, make sure you give them a big thumbs up, leave me a nice little comment, and be sure to subscribe, enable notifications for more. And if you want to see these macros in action on the daily, make sure you guys follow me over at twitch.tv/Bajheera, enable notifications to see when we go live, which is a good portion of the day every day on weekdays. We're usually live for the gym in the morning, gaming in the afternoon, then a nice late night gaming session where we do a lot of arena and stuff usually. That's a lot of fun. And of course, our TikTok's popping off these days, so you can go follow at Bajheera Official on TikTok, where you can get maybe some tips and tricks, videos, some fun moments that are much shorter than the 30-minute video that you have somehow sat through so far. Lots of content rolling, loving Dragonflight. Hope you guys are too. Having a blast playing and creating content about it, and there's plenty more on the way. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.